Check, check. What up, everybody? What up, what up? Let me pop over to my other browser, see if I can get a verification that I'm coming through, y'all. There we go. Please, y'all, let me know if you can hear me well, if I'm too loud, too soft, too stupid flat earther for you. So hope y'all are having a great late Friday night. The bars are closed, so I figure you hooligans are home by now. Just joking with you. So just waiting for some confirmation from the chat. If you guys don't mind, let me know if you can hear me well. And of course, my browser is like spooling over and over again. Oh no, did my live stream really get cut? From the chat, if you guys don't mind, let me know if you can hear me well. Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. It is Saturday morning. 3 o'clock in the morning. Where you gonna be? Okay, great. Y'all can hear me. All right, great. What's up, everybody? Yeah, for a minute there, I thought the stream was cut, but it was not. Thank you. All right, great. So yeah, I didn't really have too much prepared, but there's always plenty to talk about. Before I got started, there were a couple of things in the chat that I guess I could bounce to right quick. Brian had asked what's the topic, and it's really I've got a few things I can cover, but whatever you guys want to talk about. And he had also asked a specific question on the Kavanaugh vid, which got mixed reviews to say the least. But most of the comments were merely dismissals of the topic without providing any sort of tangible argument, no logical debate, just completely dismissing, shutting down the topic without investigation, which we're pretty used to that sort of thing by now, but you'd think when it comes to flat earthers, they may be just a little bit more open-minded when it comes to things that we're just hypothesizing. I promise you, no harm can ever come from the scientific method and testing hypothesis and getting things out there, sharing our thoughts with the community. Because when we bottle this sort of thing up and we don't talk about it, then it kind of drives one crazy. And at the same time, when you do finally get in some sort of a conversation or a confrontation about that topic, people tend to just blow up, like, so it's just not good to be dismissive in whatever the topic is. And, like I said, I promise you that by talking about things and discussing things and sciencing, as it were, no harm will come to you, because the only thing that can happen with that is either you come closer to the truth by confirming what you already thought, so you're more sure in your beliefs, or you can get to the truth by scratching what you thought because it is shown to not match reality. So that's the last thing we want to do, is live in a reality of fantasies. But that is a bit of an oxymoron. But so I lived that way for most of my life, stuck to the side of a spinning ball in outer space, just like everyone else. And the first time I heard about flat Earth, I had probably, thinking back on it, I think I had seen a video and like totally didn't register with me. I believe it was one of Eric Dubé's, and I thought the guy started making some good points and then started talking about flat Earth, and so I immediately cut it off and watched something else. Several months later, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine, and he's totally normie, military guy, believes in all of the standard mainstream narrative, all the way to 9/11. And so we were talking about certain things on 9/11, how the official narrative couldn't be true. And it's very difficult to have a conversation with somebody that simply refuses to entertain hypothesis, right? But in that conversation, he asked me, you know, because we talked about several different things, but he asked me, so you're not like a flat earther, are you? Or maybe he said, you don't believe in flat earth or something like that. And I was like, what do you mean flat earth? Like what? People actually believe that? Like I was totally didn't know what he was talking about, even though I think I might have seen 2 seconds of a flat earth video at some point previously to that. Maybe not. Maybe that was even after that. And so after that conversation, long story short, months went by, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, good while. And so in that time, I may have stumbled across a video and skipped it. But then I saw a video, something with flat earth in the title or in the description or whatever. And I believe I was proactively looking for flat earth stuff because I had got to thinking about that conversation. And when you're into so-called conspiracy theories, the last thing you want is your credibility to be hurt, or the credibility of whatever you're trying to point out as truth that goes against the official narrative. So it's important. It was important to me that if these flat Earth people are muddying the waters of the truth movement with this nonsense, then I felt an obligation to debunk it. And I didn't just go out making videos about how stupid flat Earth is. I decided to actually look into the topic. And it was because I entertained the hypothesis, although it was for the wrong reasons. At the end of that, about a week stretch of deep research and rethinking things, spending many sleepless nights just rethinking things, it turns out that flat Earth checks all the boxes, and there really is no evidence against it. And the belief in a spinning ball globe is just so flimsy and built on circumstantial evidence, on top of conjecture, on top of assumptions granted for argument's sake that must never be questioned. And the conclusion after about a week of really intense internal struggle was that, by golly, the Earth is mother effing flat and it doesn't move, contrary to everything I believed I knew before that. And it really is a life-changing thing. But it's, we have to remember that internal struggle as well, because another thing I was going to mention, my friend Travis are supposed to do the non sequitur show this morning, this evening, I'm sorry, Saturday evening. And I've seen enough of those to know that the moderators are anything but moderate, and the people that they have on there to debate the topic are basically impossible to deal with. But I'll definitely be rooting for Travis. His channel is The Plain Truth. I'll see if I can put a link in the chat box here. Hang on. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, there's a link to his channel. Give him a sub. He's got some good stuff. My buddy Travis, The Plain Truth. Oh no, it didn't work. What the hey? There it goes. Okay. So anyway, so he's supposed to be doing the non sequitur show today, later on this evening of Saturday. And I just got to say that the best you can hope to achieve in conversations like that, because you got to remember, you're debating against someone uses as it is. And it's not their fault, they were programmed to do that, but you're debating against someone who refuses to see facts. And the sun, and what about the stars? Dude, that's that's secondary. Let's not get all into cosmology just yet. The fact of the matter is, geometry means measure the Earth, and if you measure the Earth, it doesn't have curvature. Period. That's why the Earth is flat, not because of anything else, nothing theoretical, nothing astronomical. The Earth is flat because it doesn't have curvature. The Earth is stationary because it's not moving. And so when you're debating against people that refuse to is a possibility, the best you can hope to achieve by such a debate is to convince them to look, and you can do that with facts and evidence, but that really only gets you so far. If that person is unwilling to hypothesize the facts, then it's sort of impossible to get through to them. And the more their education, the higher education they have, especially when it's specialized in the sciences, the more difficult it is to talk with them and for them to see this. People that never really cared much about astronomy and aren't, never really cared much about education, which that's fine. Education is indoctrination. It might be a little bit easier for them to come to the other end of that tunnel and say, man, wow, boy, were we wrong, right? It's actually less of a journey to get someone that's not interested in astronomy, let's just say, to get them over to the flat Earth side, because there's less programming and dogma. However, someone that is highly educated, especially when it comes to things like astronomy, then it is necessarily going to be more difficult for them to see the truth because of all the extra indoctrination and programming. But at the end of the day, we're not dealing with anything complicated, nothing spectacular, other than the deception is spectacular, but the basic proofs of flat Earth are very simple. However, the conversation is always going to go into the realm of astronomy and even other things, all the tinfoil hat conspiracies like 9/11 and other things. But, it's a conversation that, again, the best you can hope to achieve with certain types of people is not to convince them that they live on a flat and stationary Earth. It's not to convince them that their ass isn't spinning around 1,000 miles an hour faster than sound in most places and zipping along multiple inverse square curves at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour in multiple directions at once, right? So that's probably not going to happen in one conversation, because there really is so much fantasy drilled into our minds through this culture, the movies, the education system. The globe really checks all those boxes in terms of the mechanisms by which it is inserted into our minds. And, excuse me, pardon me. So in that respect, it's, no matter how well you present yourself, or no matter how well you disprove their arguments, no matter how well you state your case and prove your points, you're always going to be a crazy flat earther in their opinion. And it's very easy for them to just ignore you, dismiss you without investigation. And they've got millions of people that will high five them and pat them on the back for that. And that's just the way it is. Now, are some of these people genuine globe Earth believers who probably have not looked at flat Earth? Absolutely. That's what most globe believers are. Most globe believers are genuinely decent, honest people who have just not gone through this stressful, emotional struggle as we all have. And so it's very easy to think that they're somehow thick, right? Because they just don't get these simple things. But we got to remember that, we too had to go through this de-indoctrination, deprogramming process before we came out the other end of the tunnel. And so in that respect, you can't really hold it against people. On the other hand, it is my firm belief that there are specific GCHQ, JTRIG trolls, paid government shills out there specifically to discredit flat Earth and to socially engineer people to reject it, smear campaigns against the proponents for flat Earth, because, of course, the best way to do science is to start character assassinating the people who disagree with your science, right? Because that's how science is done, through name calling and character assassination, but never about the facts. Never going to argue the facts. It's all it's a frickin' I don't know what it is, dog and pony show, right? That's what science is anymore. And not practical technologies, but theoretical sciences. So yeah. So anyway, I hate to plug non sequitur, but because Travis is going to be on there, the more people rooting for him in the chat, the better. But it's just important because there's a lot of flat earthers I hear. We shouldn't be calling them globetards. That's offensive, and you're just triggering people. But to me, there's a difference between a globe Earth believer and a globetard. And I would say the globetards are the ones that refuse to consider points, engage in circular arguments, name calling, character assassination, and lying in order to um, convince people that flat Earth is stupid, or the person who is pointing out that the Earth is flat and stationary, it must be crazy. And so, in that respect, unfortunately, as it is, people are very much swayed by um, peer pressure. And so I hate to say it, but when people eventually start to see that it is the globe Earth believers that are being called, being called out on their bull and shown to be wrong, and called things like globetards, as childish, as juvenile as that may be, but that psychologically that does have an effect. And I'm sorry, someone is being a globetard when you point out that you can see this peak from 273 miles away when it should be a half a mile below the curve, and they argue uh, standard refraction, or they argue something astronomical, completely irrelevant. And it's just very difficult and frustrating when you're trying to get this really hard to believe, unbelievable truth out to people who, when you've got these other people just dismissing you and slamming you and wrecking your character and all the other stuff. But we still got to do it, right? I mean, what did we expect? The globe Earth is, in my opinion, the great deception. And if you don't like that terminology, then it is the largest deception ever in the history of the world. Can you really think of any other deception that has gone on for as long as this? I mean, 9/11 was a pretty big deception, but all of the actors in that and all of the action in that was on one single day, really. And not to count all the legislation like the Patriot Act and such that came after that. But that was all in one day. The moon landings happened over a few years, and that was part of this deception. And this goes back to like the first globes ever made, apparently. But maybe when they made the first globes, they actually, everybody still believed it. It's like they didn't have to fake globes, right? But NASA definitely had to fake the moon landing. So, this is definitely the biggest deception ever. And to think that you're going to come out against this with the simple and honest truth. So you'd kind of think that it might be that easy just to come out and tell the truth in a world full of deception, and that might be good enough. And sure, there's a ripple effect, but there's going to be backlash. There's going to be people that don't get it, and I count on people that don't get it. If you can get them to look into this, then they potentially will come out the other side with the truth. But if you're being prickly, let's just say, and scaring people off from the topic because they think you're stupid at first, then that's not scoring us any points either. So I do see we sort of have to walk a fine line between, yes, being assertive because we do have the truth on our side and we have to wear it like a badge of honor, but also being compassionate enough and empathetic enough to, to literally or figuratively hold people's hands through this. And I've done a lot of that, maybe not so much anymore, but a lot of hand holding and really, that maybe that's not a good word, but um, really individually talking to people and individually going into long, multiple week-long comments, conversations and such on videos. And really, this sort of thing kind of has to be done on an individual level. But what I found is that the people you know and the people that supposedly unconditionally love you and that you unconditionally love, those people that are closest to you can be the most difficult to get this across to. Because I guess because maybe we don't tell them like it is as we would a complete stranger. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Or maybe because they'll tell you like it is, like a complete stranger won't. It's just, to me, it's more difficult to get this across to friends and family. Although I have certainly converted friends and family over to the truth here, um, I think it's more difficult. So, yeah, I'm losing my voice here. Sorry, guys. Let me check in on the chat. It's just whizzing by. Globetards always bring up fisheye horizons and lights in the sky. Yeah. Well, see, that's just it. For our whole lives, we've seen high altitude footage with fisheye lenses, and you know that you can see the curve of the Earth, so it must be a globe. NASA showed the same thing. So it goes unquestioned. And it was introduced into our lives and into our psyche at such a young age and reinforced by every authority in the world. That's why it's so difficult to overcome. It's really the only deception that's reinforced by every single authority in the world. Right? So let's see here. We live on the floor of the universe, or one song. Yeah, indeed. Universe. And, you know, I put that in a video a while back, but universe also, if you look at the etymology of it, um, it basically means the same thing as from many come one. And from many come one, e pluribus unum is all over the money. And so you've got that unfinished pyramid on the dollar, e pluribus unum all over the money. So maybe their one song or their universe, their from many come one song, is this whole globe lie. That's what it seems to me. Okay, Cracker WV, the science can easily be explained of how the system functions. Which system? I'm not sure I understand. How about the first man coming out now? The first man. Oh, that documentary series with like the ape people. Yeah, more evolution propaganda. Shove it down the kids' throats. And it's, you know, evolution's something that I still catch myself sort of falling into because it does make a lot of sense. Survival of the fittest, you know, things, the stronger ones survive and then they reproduce with the other stronger ones. And after millions of years, they turn into, let's see, dinosaurs turn into chickens and fishes turn into people. And yeah, it's just, it's a little bit too much to swallow. But the idea that our ancient ancestors were monkeys, it does make some sense. But when you start to realize that the whole idea of evolution is a theory and the supporting evidence for it is lacking in terms of the fossil record and the lack of intermediary species, as Darwin said and predicted, if they don't find intermediary species basically within 50 to 100 years of his hypothesis, then it probably ain't true. And lo and behold, still to this day, we can't find any intermediary species in the fossil record. And so scientifically, there really is no supporting evidence for it other than, you know, they point to DNA. DNA is similar. The code of the DNA is similar in primates and people. However, we are similar creatures, clearly. And to think that whomever or whatever created everything wouldn't use similar code for the different creatures, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense that the code is similar, right? So, you know, all of the evidence for evolution, as well as the spinning ball Earth, it's all circumstantial and based on very convenient, cherry-picked, and nicely framed circumstantial evidence that, upon closer inspection, isn't, you know, the be-all, end-all, 100% facts as they claim it is. So yeah, I've seen the ads for the First Man film coming out, and I won't be watching it. Day closest you'll ever get to the moon. Okay, out of context. Sorry, I might have skipped some there. So what do I think about Hollywood making a new movie of the moon landings? Jaron said it was unusual 2 years ago that they hadn't. Now they are. Well, it seems to me that NASA gets a lot of their ideas from Jaron, because things that he talks about and others, things that I've talked about and many other people will bring things up, call NASA out on something, and not just NASA, and then shortly thereafter they'll change things, right? Or they'll do something different. So yeah, I think they are paying attention to what we're saying, which is why no amount of video evidence from NASA is ever going to convince me of anything, right? So just because we don't have 24-hour live feeds from the moon doesn't mean if they put a 24-hour live feed on the moon, I would believe it was real. So, they've basically lost all credibility with me, but I think that kind of goes without saying. I need a flat Earth friend in my town. Well, I'm in Florida, so I'm not sure where you're at. What if theory is a theory? Yeah, I think it is. Creation is not found in Genesis. It's found in John 1, verses 1 through 5. Well, Genesis, God created the world, the heavens and the earth. First day, it was good, all that, right? Right. So let's see here. What else was I going to talk about? Okay, so yeah, Einstein's predictions. So I made that Einstein's atoms, Brownian particles video the other day. And I lived in Fayetteville for a while there, GDL reporter. You're an NC. What was I saying? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Yes, Einstein's predictions. So the other day I made the Einstein's atoms video. Not a whole lot of people watched it, but whenever I make something that isn't strictly flat Earth or whatever, it doesn't usually get watched much, but that's okay. But it is more scientism exposed. Sorry, I'm reading the comments here as well. But scientism is just everywhere, and Einstein, in my opinion, was like the biggest captain and cheerleader scientism ever had. I mean, he really did change the direction that the world was going with his theories. I don't even really honestly think they were his theories, and I don't think the math that he worked out was him. I'm convinced that was his wife that did the mathematics that he was credited with. And he also stole much of his work from other people. But the thing I wanted to talk about was his predictions, and I touched on this in the video. But a lot of the reason that we have the whole globe Earth lie in the form that we do now with infinite space and the whole vacuum of space-time and all of this nonsense is because of Einstein. And if he hadn't have come along, it appears that experiments like the Michelson-Morley and Airy's failure were going to take science and theorists in a whole nother direction entirely. And so Einstein made sure that didn't happen, and he really set the world on the course for the entire space deception and really World War II with the whole atom bomb hoax and everything. But that's probably getting a little too far into it. His predictions are what I wanted to talk about. So like a lot of his theories were backed up and supported by experimental evidence in the form of predictions that occurred just as Einstein said they occurred, right? So if you predict something and it happens, then that must mean that you're absolutely 100% right about everything you've ever said, right? So like for the one example, you've got the alleged gravitational lensing as observed during solar eclipses. So like during whenever the sun is in front of a star, this is theoretical here. During the daytime, whenever the sun's in front of a star, the starlight is going to be sort of whirred around the outside of the sun by its gravity. And during an eclipse, we can uniquely see the stars when the sun is in front of them. So during a total solar eclipse, if Einstein is right with his gravitational lensing theory, then stars, when behind the sun during an eclipse, should move some. And in fact, when the next eclipse came and it was observed in multiple locations, the background stars behind the sun indeed moved a bit when the sun was in front of them. And this allegedly, therefore, proved Einstein's gravitational lensing theory. Okay, so let's look at another one. Time dilation. Einstein similarly predicted that high altitude, fast moving objects like whatever, airplanes, spaceships, fast and high flying objects should, if his theory of space time and gravity are correct, experience time dilation. And although pilots to this day never account for this time dilation phenomenon, it was experimentally verified. So there does appear, based on these experiments, to be some factor of time dilation. And the third prediction of Einstein's, and there's probably many more, but the third one had to do with the Brownian particles. And you'd have to watch that video for the intricate details, but there's a pattern here. There's a pattern of predictions that may or may not be connected to the theory at all, that are used to experimentally verify Einstein's theories. And with just a bit of thought, you realize that had Einstein known ahead of time about the stars apparently changing position during eclipses, and had he known about this phenomenon of time dilation, he could have very well framed his theories with these predictions so that these predictions falsely and only by imagination connect to his theories and prove anything. And so, it's a little bit different with the Brownian particles and that motion. But the concept is the same, that, he ascribed mathematics to these little particles moving around in liquids. And because his mathematics matched the observations and checked out, and you could allegedly predict with these mathematic formulas, then his theories were thus proven. But again, just because the math works and your observations are correct doesn't necessarily mean that your theory is correct, because it's just how mathematics works. It's used to describe reality, and as long as your observations are sound and your math is correct, then it proves nothing but that. It proves that your observations are sound and your math is correct. So just very flimsy stuff all around. And you got to remember that all of theoretical science hinges really on Einstein's theories being correct. This is why you continue to see videos and entire empires of science, like look at LIGO and their budget, the interferometer device that allegedly discovered gravity waves 1.2 billion years ago in a galaxy far, far away. If you can believe that nonsense, as if that is verifiable or falsifiable science. But of course, they're still saying that they're proving Einstein's theories, and Einstein is just right about everything, even though he's absolutely not. I mean, the damn Earth isn't even a ball. So yeah, Einstein. But I just wanted to touch on that because if you haven't seen the Einstein's atoms video, check that out. Because, anytime we see scientism, it was very similar to the speed of light and how that was gauged allegedly. But anytime we see scientism, we need to point it out. And not only is scientism this rigid belief in theories, but it is also these sort of ancient theorists putting out just absolutely ridiculous experiments to prove their theories. Look at the Cavendish experiment, Foucault's pendulum. I mean, these are really the best that Team Globetard has to offer. And the Cavendish experiment, you know, wow, wow. You can't recreate it. It's not scalable. You know, you'd think if mass was just attracting mass left and right, you'd be able to demonstrate that in a scalable sense. But no, only Cavendish's giant balls can demonstrate this gravitational attraction, right? As if. And look at the Foucault pendulum. You know, I did or I talked about on the last live stream I did, I talked about the sniper's um, Coriolis effect. And basically, I'm reiterating here, and don't disagree with me if you disagree with this. Disagree with appliedballistics.com, that according to the Coriolis effect, the horizontal drift factor due to Earth's spin in the northern hemisphere at 45 degrees north is always to the right, regardless of which direction you're firing. And so similarly, the Foucault's pendulum experiment is a lot like this same problem, where the bullet from the shot fired in any direction would only veer off to the right because of Coriolis force if you're standing literally at the North Pole. Anywhere else, you wouldn't have that if that right hand Coriolis drift. If you were shooting, say, due west or due east with the spin of the Earth, but that's what is apparently allegedly observed by snipers. And you know, watch the last live stream. I got into the whole left barrel, right spin barrel rifling on the guns, and how they're to the right in the northern hemisphere, where the Coriolis force always makes your bullet drift to the right, no matter which direction you fire. So I'm thinking, wouldn't it make more sense to have a left-handed barrel in the northern hemisphere? But uh, that would just make too much sense, because it really seems this whole Coriolis force making your bullet drift off to the right, no matter which direction you fire, has more to do with the rifling and the gyroscopic drift of the bullet than it does the imaginary Coriolis force whatsoever. But this same exact problem, and I never was able to articulate this until I read that from appliedballistics.com last week. But the Foucault pendulum experiment has the exact same problem built into it. Because what would cause that thing to precess to the right when it's aligned to the east and west, you know, at a right angle to the alleged axis? The precession at that point would be different than, you know, especially if you're at the, say, 45 degrees north, the precession at that point would be different than if the thing is aligned to the north and south axis in that precession. So maybe I described that wrong, but hopefully you can see what I'm saying, that, you know, put yourself on the side of a spinning ball and do a little miniature Foucault pendulum experiment in your head. The only way that that works, if you subscribe to the tenets of that experiment, is if you're standing at the North Pole. Otherwise, you would sort of expect the thing to align itself to the east and west and continue just going back and forth to the east and west because of its inertia. And you call me crazy for saying that, but it makes a lot of sense to me. But no, Foucault pendulum, Cavendish, Einstein's theories, you know, this is pretty much the best that the Globe Earth team has. But when it comes to proving curvature, and when it comes to proving that their ass is spinning faster than a bullet, they've really got nothing, right? Excuse me, guys. Sorry. Let me get me something to drink. I'm losing my voice here. I didn't realize it. Excuse me. GMCDXX, the Cavendish experiment is easily refuted. The string unwinds due to the weights on the string. Yeah, and you know what's interesting too, Jaron had mentioned this a couple months ago, and I had never heard this, but I trust Jaron implicitly that he was either reading the instruction manual or was watching some sort of instructional video on how they get the Foucault pendulums to work on displays, for public displays. And basically, the instruction said, if the pendulum starts to process the wrong way after you first let it go, then you start it over and maybe give it a little bit of a favor to the right. And when I heard that, that makes a lot of sense. And I do believe that that's exactly what they would do, because I know that the Earth isn't a spinning ball. And I know that the pendulum is only processing because of the rotation of the ether overhead. And so perhaps if the thing starts going the wrong way, it would continue processing the wrong way for the entire time. And so, of course, that's exactly what they would do. If it started going the wrong way for their latitude, they'll just start it over. So, yeah, and also Robotham had pointed out in Zetetic that the type of hinge that was used uh, was a glitch. It was a flaw in the design of the thing that necessarily caused precession, due to the weight distribution on the hinge, like a ball peen type of hinge, basically. So yeah. Reading through the comments. PhysXIX, science method is the cause and effect relationship, causation. Yep. Ball-faced liar, our reality was all manifested as a lie. Yep. Cracker WV, pole of Eris. Eris is the Greek god of discord, electrostatic energy. Pole or Eros being the Greek god of love, meaning attraction or magnetism. Righto. So, just getting back to, I see a lot of YouTube channels out there just making tons of unsubstantiated claims, and not necessarily talking about flat Earth channels. There are plenty of them that do that as well, but just poor syntax, and whether it's in a grammatical sense, building a paragraph, or making a video, it's poor syntax to make claims without evidence. And so I don't know, how are you guys familiar with the whole Isaac Cappy situation? Have you guys heard of him or seen what he's up to? Let me know in the comments. I know it takes a minute for it to catch up. But so I just see a lot of channels making unsubstantiated claims, and people flock to it, but it's just, to me, it's bad syntax. And when I make videos like the one that I did today, the Kavanaugh video, I hope you guys realize this, but I pay a lot of attention to not making unsubstantiated claims. If I make claims, I try to back them up with evidence, and I absolutely do not slander people. And by the way, slandering means saying something negative about them that is false and cannot be proven. So if you can provide evidence for something, whatever that thing is that your claim is, then it isn't slander. And I really, I at least try to make sure that I'm not just one of those loose cannons out there making unsubstantiated claims. And hopefully that shows. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but I don't know. I always paid close attention to grammatical syntax, and to me, it's just pointless to make claims that you don't provide backing evidence for. So like the video that I did today, the Kavanaugh video, this was something that struck me as like, wow, like this really might be something to it. And based on the little bit that I've looked into these people, it really does appear there may be something to it. But I mean, never in that video did I go out and say anything definitely, nor did I slander anyone. And, if I say that these people's fingers are identical and show you pictures of their hands, don't call me crazy. either say, well, I disagree. Those hands look completely different, John. You're crazy. And I can handle that, you know, or say, well, you do have a point. Those fingers are in fact identical. They're very similar, right? But don't tell me you're discrediting flat earth by coming out with these videos. Oh, I'm unsubscribing from your channel for coming out with these videos. Even if it's true, there's no place on flat earth. Whatever. Um, I appreciate people's input, but if you don't have anything constructive to say, uh, then don't say it. I don't care to hear it. I got a bunch of good comments on that video. I went through the comments and replied to as many as I could. A bunch of good comments and a bunch of this exact comment. No, you're crazy. Stop this. Basically, more or less. No, you're crazy. Stop this. No, you're crazy. Stop this. Dozens of them. And I even replied to them, and I didn't even copy and paste a generic canned answer. I replied to them basically, do you have a valid argument against the facts that I'm presenting here, or are you just, dismissing me offhand because this disagrees with your belief system? Are you telling me that their faces aren't identical in structure? Are you telling me that their hands and fingers aren't pretty much identical? Am I seeing things? Am I imagining this? Or are you telling me, no, stop this, you're crazy, because what I'm telling you disagrees with your belief system? So let me just get some feedback from the chat. I saw a bunch of things go by, and no way I could read that. Comments were a joke, shows you're onto something. Yeah, I agree, because the people that were commenting negative on the video, except for maybe one or two, the ones that commented negative had nothing of substance to add. Nothing. They might as well have put, you know, a bunch of X's on the screen instead of commenting, because it contributed nothing. If I'm wrong about this, and I'm not wrong that their hands are identical, their freaking hands are identical. So unless we don't agree on, the definition of common words, then I'm not wrong about that. And, other than saying I believe that these could be the same people, decide for yourself. But don't argue with me, oh, you're not allowed to talk about this even if it's true. I even had one comment from a person that said, I like your work, and even if this is true, I can't refer people to your channel anymore. So, I suggest you just take this down, because I'm not going to be able to refer people to your channel anymore. And, first of all, I don't believe that at all. Either you're going to refer people to my channel or not. If this doesn't ring true with you, then skip to something else. But um, don't decide that it doesn't ring true with you before examining it. I didn't think that I should have uh, to tell flat earthers this kind of thing, but that's a very foolish way to go through life. And even if I'm wrong about the theory here, um, telling me that I'm crazy and to stop this, it does nothing for the endeavor at all, except waste everyone's time. Waste your time typing it, waste my time reading it, and waste my time responding to it. Right? So, open the Mayas. Where did you first see that Kavanaugh Ford stuff? Well, actually, I was watching Mr. E. Mr. E's channel got shut down in the Purge and is now Transpocalypse Now. And I just rediscovered his channel, like, I think yesterday. And if I'm not mistaken, he just put that video out very recently. And his video was basically, well, more over the top than mine, and he definitely did make some definite claims. That's his prerogative. Um, it raised an eyebrow, and I said, well, let's see here. I actually did very much take it from a zetetic approach. I grabbed some screenshots, some pictures of the two people, and overlaid them in Photoshop, and saw for myself if their faces indeed matched. And lo and behold, except for their eyes, which hers were covered by very thick Coke bottle glasses, um, they're identical. Their facial structure is identical. And while she appears to be wearing makeup, she has most of her head covered with long hair. And it appears that she does have some like latex prosthetics. Very well could be the same person. And so when I looked at that video and went in to either conform or debunk Mr. E's claims, I got to tell you, I certainly was not able to debunk the claim. There was a troll in the chat that was telling everyone that they were in the same room at the hearing, but in fact, um, Kavanaugh was apparently MIA for her testimony, and an hour and 45 minutes later, she was absent for his testimony. So, you know, I've never seen them on TV together. If they have been together in the same place at the same time on TV, then whatever. So I'm not married to this theory. I don't have any dog in this fight. I'm just pointing out the obvious here. This was brought to my attention because of a video that I saw. I investigated it further and I shared my investigation with everyone. So if you see harm in that, and I'm scaring away all these people that you're imaginarily referring to my channel, um, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do me. I'm going to do me for shizzle. Right. Uh, GDL reporter, we never felt upside down. Well, you must not live in Australia then, buddy. Okay. Clavicus Nox, gravity needs the mass of the Earth to give big G. Let that sink in. Yeah. Well, and they take big G and measure, in air quotes, they measure the weight of the stars with big G. So, how pompous and presumptuous is that these scientists think that they actually know how much stars weigh, as if that would ever be verified or falsified, right? Just more pseudoscience posing as science with a capital S. Brylan77, John, is there anything new in the world of flat Earth? It seems we are still trying to debate the shape and such, but isn't there something new we can wrap our mind around? Well, like I said, I really don't think there's anything to debate. The only thing I can see to debate is people's belief system and how they've arrived at that. But it's like I said, you can't debate that the Earth doesn't have curvature. You can't debate that the Earth isn't in motion. If someone disagrees with these facts, then it isn't a debate. It is. It's like, do you have a debate with a child about Santa Claus? You know what I mean? So it's really nothing to debate. But um, as far as I can tell, man, the best thing that we can do at this point is raise awareness to the topic and to have people take us and to take this topic seriously. And you might make 100 enemies for every one person that you show the truth to, but in my opinion, that's worth it. And even though I've been doing this sort of thing for 3 years now, it still doesn't. I still don't. I don't feel like I'm doing it for nothing. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't seem like we're just spinning our wheels and getting nowhere. Although I can definitely relate to it seeming like that at times. Um, I just think that we've got to score points one soul at a time. And although that isn't necessarily as rewarding as having this thing, because let me put it this way: if you're waiting for the day where the president of the United States is going to come out and say, "All right, everyone, the Earth is flat," and every news outlet is going to tell everybody that the Earth is flat, and Martha Stewart's going to do cooking shows talking about flat Earth, and I don't know, whatever. If you're waiting for that day to come, I really don't think that's going to happen in our lifetimes, unfortunately. But The same thing too can be said about 9/11. I mean, to this very day, the mainstream media outlets still say that 19 or whatever hijackers and all that nonsense. Um, but I would say at least half of the people know that the official narrative is bullcrap, right? So in that respect, what's new? Um, I don't know, man. I think that just the preponderance of evidence has grown um, increasingly. I mean, every single year, every single day that everyone's doing this, there's more things discovered. There's more proofs that we're realizing, and no matter how good the proofs get, they're still just going to argue with you ad nauseum. And it's not everyone. It's very specific key people who just refuse to even consider the truth, it seems. But the majority of people are easily swayed by that sort of propaganda. Again, it's a very specific psychological operation, and it's very easy to keep people in it. All they have to do is sort of continue to reinforce their lies in the media with things like finding new exoplanets. And I think they even, uh, I was listening to maybe she's a little bit off the wall, but a scientist, like a Chinese woman scientist, doing presentations on her channel. And they were kind of interesting in a globe head sort of sense. But she was saying that according to her, for the last couple of years, the sun and moon have stopped giving off light, and there are basically artificial sun and moon in the sky. And she's a globe head. Okay, I can't think of the name of the channel, and I don't remember if I subscribed to her channel, but according to her, the sun isn't shining anymore, really, and they're using a artificial sun. And so, but they do things like that, and whether she's controlled opposition or not, I don't know. But they'll do things like that, and NASA will do other stunts to keep people interested in the deception and to perpetuate the deception. So in that respect, I feel that it is our job to combat that with the truth and to call them on their BS every step of the way, and to continue standing up for what is right and continue standing up for the truth in the face of all this adversity and negativity and personal reputational loss. At the end of the day, who cares? I mean, whether I die um, with a perfect gleaming reputation and everybody loves me, or whether I die a millionaire or broke or whatever, we're still all going to die, And so in that respect, it doesn't matter how many toys you have or how many points you put up on the board. What matters is how you've treated one another. And what matters is if you've stood up for what was right. And in that respect, I think that, you know, it's very easy to see that the right thing to do is to keep telling the truth, keep bringing people to the truth, in spite of what they may say about you. And maybe, just maybe one day, the president and all the news media and Martha Stewart will come out and say the earth is flat. But I'm not holding my breath, you know? Right. So the Mick, I'm suspect about the fingers. Yeah, well, okay. They look freaking identical to me. So I don't know. Uh, Open Maya's, it's very interesting. Who else is covering this? Nobody, as far as I know. Go to Transpocalypse Now. He had one video on it. But again, he had some more pictures and stuff, and he plays more clips of them both speaking. So I know one commenter had mentioned their voices didn't seem to match, but of course, guys, I can put on. Well, I'm kind of a baritone, but I can. You can guide your voice, and in fact, one of the things that Mystery had mentioned on that video is a voice coach had gotten her Twitter account removed because she was basically saying that Christina Blasey Ford was terrible voice acting and terrible acting. She had her Twitter account banned or removed or whatever. So, you know, it just doesn't seem like her voice was all that convincing to me. I mean, I've heard trannies speak before, and they can be convincing, you know. So a lot of people don't know I have a tranny very close to me in my life, and so this topic really hits close to home for me. Um, so yeah, I'll tell you guys. Fuck it. Excuse my language. Okay, so my dad is a tranny. Yep. My dad is he dresses as a woman, changed his name to Lisa. And he did this when I was in my mid 20s, although he had had this sort of problem his whole life, psychological problems, mental breakdowns, borderline schizophrenic, manic depressive, and he's always wanted to be a woman, right? And so, there's so many people that jump on the Bruce Jenner bandwagon and say, "Oh, you can't be judgmental. You've never been in his position, and how do you think he feels?" And frankly, from somebody that's lived on the inside and seen this sort of identity disorder firsthand, um, it's something that it's freaking crazy, you guys. Okay, it is nuts, and I've seen the other side of this crazy that isn't all bubbly and presents itself to the world deceptively, but I've seen the side of this that is right out physical, mentally abusive, and just right out crazy. I haven't spoken to my father in 20 something years, and that is why I can't stand to look at him. I've tried to honor him by coming to terms with his deal, and the best I can do is just stay away from him because to me it's an abomination. It's disgusting, and frankly, I hate it. I think it's sick. I lost my father to this identity disorder that seems to be sweeping the nation, and you know, so if anyone comes to me and says, "Well, you don't understand uh, what they're going through, and you don't understand what it's like to be disoriented in your sexuality," well, maybe you're right, but I did grow up where I lost my dad to being a tranny. Okay, so if it seems like I'm a little bit homophobic about this or whatever, transphobic, that's why. Okay, so I would say that most people have no position to talk to me about this topic. Frankly, I can take the moral high ground on this real freaking quick. Okay, and just full disclosure, my dad never did anything to me, and it was something that he struggled with as a man with two kids and a wife, but um, he came unseamed because of it. And my older brother, who was a little bit more devious than I, one day was rooting through my parents' closet and found letters that my dad had written to his psychiatrist about all this crazy stuff, and he showed it to me. And so I had known about this when I was pretty young, like 12, 13 years old, something like that. Maybe it was even before my mom split, so maybe I was younger. But, you know, it's just something that I think it's sick. I think it's a cultural disease. I think these people are confused and misled by the programming, subliminal programming that started way back with like the Beatles and, maybe hair bands and maybe longer than that. So if you ever think that I'm being a little bit judgmental on the trannies, then there's why. Right. So Ute says, "What up, Ute?" I lost it. Wow, the chat just flew by. Okay, here we go. If I was gay, I know my dad would have turned his back on me, no doubt. Like, yeah, I mean, like, when did that happen to, like, I don't know. It just seems like when I was going to high school, I knew. a few gay girls that were maybe not openly gay, but sort of openly maybe bi, I don't know. That was in high school, and a couple of gay dudes, but it wasn't something that they wore on their sleeve necessarily, and you know, they got their asses kicked. It wasn't cool. And whether you agree with that or not, I'm just saying that's the way that it was. My question is when did it change? When did now all of a sudden, if you say, well, I think that, gay people, most of them may have some uh, mental issues that they need to work out. Maybe not, but maybe they do. Oh, I get my freaking head shot off, right? So, but when did that happen? I don't know. I don't know. But it happened very, like, within my lifetime. It's like, wow. Excuse me. Yeah, Ute. Yeah, he was. He was just that sort of guy, man. Yeah, that's crazy. Yep. So Vinegar Stroke says, Ute, I was hopeful when Hashgraph came along, but folk are instead opting for a two-party authentication structure. Well, I guess that's sort of besides the point. I'm reading all that aloud. Right, so Michelle Obama is a trans. Yeah, I put her in a video. Talked about that before. Agreed. I think Michelle Obama is almost certainly a man. Cracker WV, Masons killed my father, who was a 32nd degree Mason. Really? How do you know it was them, and how did they kill him? Dr. Drool says there's probably a genetic trigger, 23rd chromosome. Maybe. Mike's Nary, it's all about the narrative, and the narrative is becoming increasingly shaky. Yeah, it's Satan. Right. Sorry, guys. I know I'm being sort of silent here. I'm reading through the comments, and I'm about to sip my lemonade. So thirsty. Manuel Avile says people are so mind controlled that they never question pseudoscience. That's right. See, our educational system teaches us to absorb information, regurgitate information for a test, and then basically forget that information. I mean, think of all the tests you took in your schooling years. All those tests. Do you think you would ace them all right now? Maybe if it's math, because you learn math and that's sort of a systematic thing, but do you really have room in there for all those tests that you did in high school and college? And if you do, well, great. But so much of that information is useless, and they teach us how to basically absorb information from authorities and not question it, and basically ridicule people who go outside of the regular frame. Anybody that thinks outside of the box is going to be ostracized by society at large. I mean, that's just what people are trained to do, sad as it is. But it is definitely mind control. I mean, and that term has so much negative connotation to it, but mind control or whatever basically just means that um, you can motivate people to do things that they would not normally do. And if you can get someone to do something that they would not normally do, well, then in a sense, even something that simple, by definition, you have mind controlled them, especially if you've done it through suggestion and you haven't actually given them an order. Well, that's subliminal mind control in a sense, isn't it? Suggestion, and people are largely very suggestible. But yeah, so mind control is definitely rampant. Okay, I'm not reading that. The Kegel. What up, Nathan Oakley? I guess it's, what is it, good morning for you over there in Great Britain. London. Sorry, my Oliver Twist voice is a little off. So let's see here. Um, yeah, so I guess I'll plug one more time. Today, Saturday, later on this evening, I think it's at 8 Eastern, my friend Travis from The Plain Truth will be debating, or not debating, I'm not sure, but he'll be on the Non Sequitur show. So if you guys want to root for him and give his channel a sub, that'd be sweet. We talked about Einstein's predictions, gravitational lensing. You know, I just wanted to also mention, and this is sort of in contrast to the comment I responded to earlier, but I do think we've come a long way with flat Earth. I mean, I really do. I think if you look compared to now to where we were, say, in the end of 2015 or the end of 2016, um, there's just so much more out there. Uh, and of course, the size and the sharpness, or maybe the deceptive wiliness of our opposition has gotten much stronger as well. But flat Earth has become sort of a household name, and although many mention it in jest, um, I think that there are a lot of very credible and sensible voices out there in the flat Earth community, and I just think that's it's really motivating, and it's reinforcing to see how far we've come. And yet we still have a long way to go, as y'all know, and as y'all mentioned in the comments, we've got a long way to go, and we just got to do it one day at a time, man. You know, I really like Jordan Peterson, and one of the things that he's said and it's kind of stuck with me is, set your goals low. If you can't achieve the big thing right now, then just do something small. Do something that you can achieve, and do that, and get good at it. Do it well, and then maybe the next day or the next week or even the next month, increase what you're doing. Do something more than that. Whether it's exercising or doing videos or whatever, your work, your job, your passions. Things can be overwhelming if you look at the end result that you're looking to get. But if you just incrementally set your goals to achievable things, and relish in your victories when you achieve your goals, appreciate that and be thankful that you have the capacity to achieve those goals, and be thankful that you have goals. you know and I think that if you have that sort of an outlook, even the largest mountain can be climbed. God, I'm sounding like one of those motivational posters. It's getting kind of late, isn't it? Oh, vey. um, but yeah, so I don't know. I think that's about everything. One thing I'm thinking about doing, and I probably will at least for Halloween, is I'm thinking about setting up a whole new channel completely separate from this one, and I probably won't even narrate it until maybe later. But just putting out a channel, and I will keep it anonymous just to see how it performs, because I'm going to do content that is not related to flat Earth, not related to any sort of truth, just more, I guess you could say, geared towards the bubblegum, mind-numbing crap that YouTube promotes. Because to me, it's really kind of an experiment. I want to see how the channel performs without the stigma of YouTube censorship and flat Earth stigma stuck to it. Just to see how well it does in terms of views and all that. Because I'm curious, part of me thinks that flat Earth is being suppressed, but maybe my videos just really suck. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, so I think I really wasn't planning on to be on for that long tonight, guys. I think I'm about to wrap it up, but I'll read through the comments one more time. Ute says, quote, "I don't mind you calling me a tranny, but don't call me mastard." Einstein. Einstein. And shouldn't it have been Einstein? Maybe not. I don't know. Ball-faced liar says, yeah, okay. It's only 9:20 p.m. Where do you live? Like in the Pacific Ocean or something? Oh, maybe you're in Hawaii, right? I don't know. Ronnie Fosti, Flat Earth shot my goals. Yeah, I know. Flat Earth ruined my life, so don't complain much. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Not really. Dead to This World redeemed. Everybody, TC, much love and respect. I'm out. Yeah, I'm about to bounce out too. It's 4:30 in the morning here. But I just got a wild hair to do a stream. I responded to like 1,000 comments earlier, and I was just like, I'm just gonna say my piece on this on a live stream and be done with it. Ute says maybe him being a tranny was a side issue, and he was more bothered about people saying he was an academic fraud. He was sure as hell a promoted guy. Yeah. Yeah, so that's right. I didn't even make the connection before, but so Einstein did like to go cross-dressing, didn't he? Or am I just totally wrong here? But that is a thing, though, isn't it? Right? Einstein cross-dressing. Nimblehorse says German and Jewish, Ashkenazic, yeah. Habitational name from any of various places named with a middle high German derivative of Einstein to enclose or surround with stone. Yep. So in another sense, the word Einstein is almost like the AE projection. He could have just been Albert AE projection. Oh, and his initials are AE. Wow. Bonus. Albert equidistant. Or no, it would be Alberta equidistant. Alberta equidistant. Brian77 says, my ancestor was Hans Heinrich Landis, 1553 to 1614 from Switzerland. He was a martyr for his views, which didn't line up with the mainstream of the time. Oh, and I never did hear how your father was killed by Masons. Did I miss that? Oh, wow, and a super chat just came in from Rob Wiggles. Smash that super chat. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it, buddy. Devlin Anon says Einstein, Feinstein, Weinstein. Yeah, Frankenstein. Dusty Blue, anything in changing economics with money, energy, mindset, techno, not a way to go. It's too controlling and not organic, just in my view. So, yeah, well, I'm not sure exactly the context of that, but money, energy, isn't that one of the second biggest hoax ever? Money and energy. We have to burn fossil fuels to make our cars go fast. Scrubser says, my problem is you only show 1/3 of Kavanaugh's face in comparison. Not enough full side-by-side comparison, as if only a bit of his face matches, but split down the middle doesn't, so you didn't show it. Well, if you watch the video, which I guess you have not watched the video, you just looked at the cover. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you watch the video, you'll see that I actually redraw the entire face overlaid. So the left side, the right side, the middle, everything. So I'm not sure what you mean by I didn't show his whole face, because I showed him from beyond the top of his head to below his neck and used the whole face in comparison. So I'm probably not going to do another one on that of those videos, but like, I thought it was, the whole face would be good enough, but Cracker WV E3 E equals 3, M equals 3, C equals third letter of alphabet. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, yeah, I'm about to bounce out of here. And yes, as far as I know, we're doing Glowbusters Sunday. Last week, I think Bob was sick, or the week before, somebody had to work. So, as far as I know, we're doing Glowbusters on Sunday at 3 Eastern. That's 3 in the afternoon, not 3 in the morning, of course. But yeah, so thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Thank you. Yeah, the vid was great. Thank you. Nathan Oakley, throwing you stones from a distance. Yeah, throw some stones my way. All right, guys. Well, let me swap over to Chrome and end the live stream. But God bless you guys. Love y'all, man. And peace out, everybody. Keep it real.